Good morning, everyone. If our board members would find their seats and our guests would take a seat in the gallery. Good morning and welcome to the recess meeting of February 19th, 2015 of this Will County Board. We will call this meeting to order. If everyone would please stand. County Board Member Herb Brooks will lead us in the pledge this morning and then introduce our clergy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, it certainly gives me great pleasure to introduce another friend of mine. You would think that I know all of the clergy in the state of Illinois, but this is one of the few that I do have pleasure in knowing. Reverend Licious Mahone Jr. is formerly the pastor of Brown Chapel AME Church here in the city of Joliet. Reverend Mahone was ordained in 1972 and served as the pastor of Brown Chapel from 1981 until his retirement in 2014, and this body presented him with proclamation on his retirement. And I certainly want to thank you all for that. He has served as president of the Churches United in the fight against AIDS, an organization working to empower churches in the Joliet area in the struggle against the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the African American community. He serves as chairman of the Will County Community Health Organization Governing Council Board, served on a Quality Control Committee of the Will County Community Health Center, and a member of the Joliet Regional Interfaith Education Committee. Reverend Mahone and his wife Betty are here today, and they are proud parents of 3 children and 4 grandchildren. My friend, Reverend Licious Mahone. Would you come down, please?
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Heavenly Father, with thanksgiving and praise, we come humbly before your throne of grace and mercy. We thank you, we praise you, we glorify you, we magnify you because you're worthy to be praised. You are the author of our faith. You are the one who have kept us by the power of your might, led us, guided us, and directed us in all of the affairs in which you have charged us with the responsibility of. So we come today asking that you would continue to bless, that you would give wisdom, knowledge, and an understanding heart to the leadership of the Will County, that they might lead your people in the way in which you would have them to go. Give them strength and courage, directions, and keep them by the power of your might. Bless this nation who faces great challenges every day, and we pray that your will might be done first of all, and most of all, that you would pour out an abundance of mercy upon the leadership of this nation, that we might be able to stand firmly, declaring that you are the only one and true and living God. So we thank you and we praise you for it. We ask it all in the matchless name of Jesus. Amen.
Ready, Nan? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Mayor? Here. Brooks?
Here.
Howard? Here. Ogalla? Here. Singer?
Excuse me. Please, thank you.
Moran? Rice? Here. Harris? Here. Trainier? Here. Benefield?
Here.
Fritz? Here. Freitag? Here. Gould? Balich? Here. Frizzalone? Here. Winfrey? Here. Parker? Here. Staley Ferry? Babbage? Here. Wilhelmy? Here. Hart? Tuminello? Here. Weigel? Here. Collins? Here. Ferry.
Here.
And Mustis.
He's here too.
Thank you. I saw him.
22 present, 4 absent.
22 present, 4 absent. A quorum has been established. Entertain a motion to place on file the certificate of publication. Moved by Mr. Babbage, second by Mr. Wilhelmie. Please call the roll.
Sure. Mayor? Brooks? Howard?
Yes.
Ogalla? Rice? Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Freitag? Gould? Balich? Frizzalone? Winfrey? Parker? Babbage? Wilhelmie? Tumanello? Weigel? Collins? Ferry? And Mustis. Thank you.
22 affirmative.
22 affirmative, motion is carried. Entertain a motion to approve the Will County Board meeting of January 15, 2015. Minutes of that meeting. Moved by Ms. Winfrey, seconded by Mr. Ferry. Any discussion? Previous roll by Mr. Gould, seconded by Ms. Freitag. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary motion has carried. Madam Clerk, would you please acknowledge our elected officials and media present this morning?
Sure. Auditor Duffy Blackburn, County Clerk Nancy Schultz-Voots, County Executive Larry Walsh, Sheriff Mike Kelly, our State's Attorney James Glasgow, and media we have Chicago Tribune Alice Fabry, Farmers Weekly Review and Bugle Nick Ryer, Southtown Susan Lafferty, and the Herald News Lauren Leon Cross.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Honorary resolutions and proclamations. If County Board Member Denise Winfrey will please come forward. She has an introduction to make this morning. Denise?
Thank you, Mr. Executive, and good morning, fellow board members. As you all know, this is Black History Month. First instituted by Carter G. Woodson, it was 1 week, and the intent was to make sure that people did not forget or overlook the contributions by Black Americans. It was bounded on the front end by the birthday of Frederick Douglass, the abolitionist and newspaper publisher, and on the back end by Abraham Lincoln for the Emancipation Proclamation. Contributions over the years have been many and varied and certainly happen every day. What we want to do for February is just highlight a few of those. So this morning our guest is Norman Brown. If you would come up, please. Norman Brown from District 4 Bolingbrook, who will do some readings to highlight some of the many accomplishments that have happened by Black Americans.
Good morning. When I was first asked to do this by Denise Winfrey, it's something I've never done before. And so when I went home, I thought about it, and in keeping with the theme, I came across a poem that I think is quite fitting for the occasion. And it's called What is Black History by Latoria Feasion. And it mentions several individuals by name that I was not familiar with, and there are some obvious, such as Colin Powell, Carter G. Woodson, Coretta Scott King, Mahalia Jackson, Michael Jackson, and also included in here were some people that I did not know. And I'll read the poem, but I just wanted to preface my reading. Ruby Ridges, who is now an American anthropologist. She was the first Black child to attend an all-white Southern school. Carl Brashear, you all heard of the movie, Man of Honor. He's also mentioned in this poem. Zola Neale
Kurtzen, who is a female anthropologist and novelist, and wrote the acclaimed book, Mother, Their Eyes Were Watching God. And so I thought this was a teachable moment, at least for myself, given a lot of the names that I was not familiar with. So what I'd like to do is read this poem. It's not very long, but I think it's in keeping with today's theme. And it starts out by saying it is a dirt road our forefathers trod, memories of their lives banned in our hearts. It is a word, a place, a state of mind. Black history is a peek into our ancestral time. It is a piece of fabric our grandmother wove, an old rope that our grandfathers lived to deplore. It is a slave ship, middle passage overseas. Black history is a cotton field and tobacco leaves. It is a plantation, overseer, and black door crumbs, weeping and wailing, a beating of drums. It is a troubling truth and unapologetic past. Black history is an entire race struggling to last. It is a Mississippi burning and a Tennessee town, an evil that lingers to bring black people down. It is a book or movie of strength, courage, and will. Black history is the faith of young Emmett Till. It is Little Ruby Bridges, the exquisite Ruby Dee, Carter G. Woodson, Coretta Scott King, a Mahalia Jackson song, a Michael Jackson routine. Black history is a phase, let freedom reign. It is Cheney University, the Tuskegee Airmen, the NAACP, the Black Holocaust Museum. It is a Navy master diver named Carl Brashear. Black history is our legacy of triumph without fear. It is Colin Powell, General Colin Powell, a vaudeville drama, Zora Neale Hurston, and President Barack Obama. It is every single experience of our history. Black history is the story of you and me. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Next, County Board Member Herb Brooks will please come forward with a proclamation honoring East Joliet Fire District on 75th anniversary. Chief?
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Chief. Recognizing the 75th anniversary of the East Joliet Fire Protection District. Whereas in March of 1940, at a meeting at A.O. Marshall School, Joliet, Illinois, it was unanimously approved to form and build the East Joliet Fire Department. And whereas in June of 1940, the department acquired its first piece of equipment, a chemical truck purchased from the Orland Park Fire Department, and later that year, a two-bay fire station was built at 409 Leach Avenue in Joliet. And whereas in 1959, an election was held to form a Joliet Protection District, which was overwhelmingly approved, and whereas in 1964, a second station was built at 102 East Zarley Boulevard in Joliet, and whereas in 1978, a third station was built at 911 South Brake Street in Joliet, and whereas since its inception, 3 men have served as chief of the East Joliet Fire Department Protection District. William J. Bolton from 1940 until his death in 1963. Robert J. Clint from April 1963 until his death in 2000. And current Chief Robert F. Schultes Jr., who served since 2000, and whereas today, the East Joliet Fire Department has 12 full-time firefighters and a core group of part-time and paid on-call firefighters who operate 2 engines, one 105 tall ladder truck, 1 heavy rescue truck, 3 ALS ambulance, and 1 4-wheel drive brush truck. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Will County Board and the Will County Executive congratulate the East Joliet Fire Department District on their 75th anniversary. Be it further proclaimed that the Will County Board and the Will County Executive recognize the brave effort and dedication of the East Joliet Fire Department District to protect property, ensure safety to the public, and wishes them continued success in the future. Dated this 19th day of February 2015, Nancy Schultz votes, Will County Clerk, Lawrence M. Walsh, Will County Executive. I so move.
Seconded by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion is carried. Chief, congratulations.
It's an honor to stand before you today to accept this on behalf of the Fire District and the men and women of the East Joliet Fire Protection District. To start, we have one member, president of the board, that has been with the district for 62 years. He is the president of our board, and he can tell you some stories. One of his stories that he likes to share is that he helped build the station because his father was a charter member of the district, and he pulled his little red wagon around while they built the station at 409 Leach Avenue. As they said, today we operate with 12 full-time guys and 2 chief officers, myself and my deputy chief. And the men and women enjoy serving the community that we do serve, and we look forward to continuing to do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. All resolutions from the January 15th, 2015 County Board agenda have been signed by the County Executive. Our first committee this morning is Land Use and Development Committee. Mr. Weigel, Chairman.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, gentlemen.
First item is open public hearing for land use cases, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Ms. Collins. Call the roll, please.
Sure. Mayor? Yes. Brooks? Yes. Howard? Yes. Ogala? Yes. Rice? Yes. Harris? Yes. Trainier? Yes. Benefield? Yes. Fritz? Yes. Freitag? Yes. Gould? Yes. Balich? Yes. Frizzalone? Yes. Winfrey? Yes. Parker? Yes. Babbage? Wilhelmie? Yes. Tuminello? Yes. Weigel?
Yes.
Collins? Ferry?
Yes.
And Mustis. Thank you.
Eustace?
Thank you.
22 affirmative.
22 affirmative. We are in public hearing. Please be advised, absolutely no new evidence or information will be allowed once this land use public hearing is closed. We have one case this morning, that is case 6222-M. We have one speaker, Ken Stack. Mr. Stack, would you, you're here for questions only, is that correct? Correct, okay. Is there anyone else interested in speaking on behalf of case 6222? Anyone else interested in speaking? Mr. Weigel?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Frizzalone. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure, Mayor? Yes. Brooks? Yes. Howard? Yes. Ogala? Yes. Rice? Yes. Harris? Yes. Trainier? Yes. Benefield? Yes. Fritz? Yes. Freitag? Yes. Gould? Yes. Balich? Yes. Frizzalone? Yes. Winfrey? Yes. Parker? Yes. Babbage? Yes. Wilhelmie? Yes. Tuminello? Yes. Weigel?
Yes.
Collins? Yes. Ferry? Yes. And Mustis. Thank you.
22 affirmative.
22 affirmative, the public hearing has been closed. Mr. Weigel, please continue.
Our first item is the case 6222M. This is a map amendment from A2 to R2 in Frankfort Township on Francis Road. It's a 5-acre parcel. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Tuminello. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Babbage, second by Ms. Trainier. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Next item is a resolution concerning the same property. This is to waive our subdivision ordinance to allow a 2-lot subdivision. This is Resolution 15-36. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Ms. Freitag. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Winfrey, second by Mr. Howard. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Next resolution, 15-37, is amending our outdoor lighting ordinance. We're adding wording to the ordinance that says you should not create a hazard or nuisance with your lighting. You should provide shielding. This arose because of a incident between two neighbors were shining lights on each other. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Ms. Parker. Any questions? Questions, Ms. Trainier?
I am not going to be voting for this amendment. I don't feel that government should be creating legislation to address the issues of just 1 or 2 residents. I know in the past we've had issues come up about leaf burning and our residents that have asthma and how that affects their health. We did not get a consensus to make any change, and I think that group of residents is probably larger than the one that this particular ordinance would address. So I'm not going to be in favor of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trainier. Mr. Ballage?
I agree with Jackie.
Wow.
Put it on the calendar. You know, I don't think we should have any kind of ordinance like that at all. But if we're going to have an ordinance, there should be measurements so that it's not arbitrary on what is a nuisance light. And the way this is written, it doesn't give that measurement, so that's something that really needed to be put in there. And it said should put up a shield. Well, to me, the whole thing is ridiculous. But if you're going to put up, you're going to say should, you have to say either must or may, not should.
Any other questions, Mr. Weigel? Mr. Weigel?
This is something that we had in our ordinance in the past. When we updated our ordinance a couple of years ago, we refined it somewhat and we left this language out. So we're just putting it back in so that our compliance department has something to go out and enforce the ordinance when there's abuse of certain lighting situations.
Okay. Ms. Fritz?
I agree with Steve that this ordinance is too vague. It should have some measurements in there for what is hazardous, what is a nuisance, and I agree that it doesn't need to be there, and we don't want to enforce something that is not measurable.
Thank you. Mr. Howard?
Yeah. I'm going to be in the middle this morning. I'm between Jackie and Steve, so I do agree with both the points. Number one is I'm for less government intrusion, especially in the rural areas. I mean, I just consider that. And I think neighbors should be able to work things out amongst themselves. I mean, we do, live in a modern-day society here. The other thing is that we do need measurable amounts on it, whether photometrics are come into play or whatever, because otherwise it's just a judgment call on an individual, and that gets us in a lot of trouble. So that's it. Thanks.
Mr. Weigel?
We do have measurements for industrial and commercial property, but we didn't think it was necessary to have measurements on residential property. It should be rather obvious when you go out if something is a nuisance or not a nuisance.
Any other questions? Roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chuck, Mayor?
Mr. Mayor? Yes.
Brooks? No. Howard? No. Ogala? Rice? Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Freitag? Gould? Balich? Frizalone? Winfrey? Parker? Babbage? Wilhelmie? Tumanello? Weigel?
Yes.
Collins? Ferry? And Mustis. Thank you. That's what I got. I got 11 on
11 affirmative and 11 negative.
That's what I got.
I vote no.
Next resolution, 15-38, is revision to our dynamic display ordinance. This would allow dynamic displays in residential and agricultural zone properties. This arose from the American Legion in Plainfield, asking to have a sign for their facility, and it happened to be zoned residential, and also a golf course in Wheatland Township that happens to be zoned agricultural. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Gould. Any questions? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure. Mayor? Brooks? Howard? Ogala? Rice? Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Freitag? Gould? Balich? Frizalone? Winfrey? Parker? Babbage? Wilhelmie? Tumanello? Weigel?
Yes.
Collins? Ferry? And Mustis. Thank you.
22 affirmative.
22 affirmative, motion is carried.
Next resolution, 15-39, is updating the dynamic display table for this previous item. Committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Ms. Parker. Any questions? Previous roll, moved by who?
Gould.
By Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Benefield. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next resolution, 15-40, is to revise our sprinkling ordinance in our building code. This would not require sprinklers in a commercial building that has a residence. This arose because of a situation in Plainfield where the highway commissioner wanted to have a residence in his commercial building. And committee recommends approval, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Weigel, second by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Trainier. Any questions? Any questions? Anyone in questions? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor? Brooks? Howard? Ogala? Okay. Rice? Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Freitag? The Sprinklers. Ogala, would you like to vote on this? Freitag? Gould? Balich? Frizalone? Winfrey? Parker? Babbage? Wilhelmie? Tumanello? Weigel?
Yes.
Collins? Ferry? And Mustis.
14 affirmative, 8 negative.
14 affirmative, 8 negative. Motion has carried.
Next resolution, 15-41, is a request for refund fees in case 6211S, Kenneth Stack. This was a case that went through the PZC. It was for a truck terminal, and apparently the loan was not approved due to decrease in the value of the property appraisal, and the applicant requested a refund. Committee recommended not to do the refund because it had already gone through and all the staff time had been spent on this. So committee recommends not approving this. I'll make that motion not to approve the refund. The requester is here if you want to let him talk.
Bring up the
I
yes,
thought the
but-
motions
bring
had
up-
to be
Yeah.
positive motions.
Does the motion have to be up?
Jim? I mean, these motions, don't these motions have to be positive, not be not? Deny?
Yes. Yeah.
My understanding, I thought all the motions have to come as you can vote no on the motion, but the motion needs to come forward as a positive motion. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
Right.
Am I correct in that, Jim? Mary? Okay. Our
Yeah, you
state's
are
attorney
correct.
says the motions have to come forward as a positive motion to approve,
Okay.
then vote no if you want, but the motions have to be in positive form.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the request, but I'll be voting no.
Okay.
No,
So-
then we have a vote.
Committee recommends approval, or not, recommends a no vote.
So Mr. Weigel recommends approval of Resolution 15-41. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ogala. Discussion? Anyone? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor? Brooks? Howard? Ogala? Rice? Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Freitag? Gould? Balich? Frizzalone? Winfrey? Parker? Babbage, sorry. Wilhelmie? Tumanello? Weigel?
No.
Collins? Ferry? And Mustis? Thank you.
Two affirmative, 20 negative.
2 affirmative, 20 negative. Motion has been denied.
Our next meeting is March 10th. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Tom. Moving on, Finance Committee, Mr. Frizzalone, Chairman.
Good morning, Executive Walsh and
Good
everyone
morning,
else.
Michael.
First up, I'd like to make a motion to put on file the Treasurer's Report dated September 31st, 2014, which is in your packet.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Mr. Mustis. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have 1542, ordinance authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $20 million in general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2015. And let me just say on those, before I make the motion, that these are bonds that were to retire in 2026 and 2027, roughly $8 million and $12 million each. The new bonds will be the same exact term, so they'll still retire in 2026 and 2027. But with the rates falling, we'll be able to save over that period of time $1.4 million. So I make a motion to approve this ordinance.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Mr. Mayor. Any discussion? Motion for previous roll call by Mr. Wilhelmie, second by Mr. Ferry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
We need a new vote,
Oh,
just for the two.
do we need a new vote?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
you're right,
Ogala and Harris.
Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor? Brooks? Howard? Ogalla? Rice? Harris? Trainier? Benefield? Fritz? Freitag? Gould? Balich? Frizalone?
Yes.
Winfrey? Parker? Babich? Wilhelmie? Tumanello? Weigel? Collins? Ferry? And Mustis. Thank you.
21 affirmative and 1 abstention.
21 affirmative, motion has carried.
Next up, we have 15-43, authorizing appropriation of funds from IDPH Chronic Disease and School Health Grant into the Healthcare Department budget, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, seconded by Ms. Fritz. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Babbage, second by Mr. Howard. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Donson.
John, you in for you. Thank you.
Next is 1544, transfer of appropriations from moving-related and other miscellaneous expenses into the Capital 304 Fund, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Ms. Trainier. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Rice, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
1545, transferring and increasing appropriation in various county budgets to fund year-end shortfalls, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Mr. Benefield. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Winfrey, second by Mr. Ferry. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
15-46 is amending the 2015 budget to reflect the debt service for general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2014. These are the bonds that we did at the end of the year, last year, not the ones that we just voted on. So I motion to approve this.
Moved by Mr. Frizzalone, second by Mr. Brooks. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Trainier, second by Ms. Rice. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Before I announce our next meeting, I want you all to be aware that you have a document with a lot of numbers in front of you. This is from Governor Rauner's speech the other day, which shows that in his speech, potentially, we could lose $5 million from the state next year. I would caution everybody to just kind of certainly make your opinions known, that we don't want to lose this money, but I wouldn't panic yet. There's a lot to be done before anything happens, so as long as we're making our feeling known that we'd still like to have that money, I think we'll be in good shape when it's all said and done. And our next meeting will be March 3rd at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next up, Public Works, Mr. Gould, Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Executive.
Good morning, Don.
Fellow board members. First off, I would like to place on file and public notice of the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency of the proposed renewal of the Clean Air Act permit program for IOI Loaders Croklaan in Shanahan. This is a manufacturer of vegetable oil products. So I move to place this on file.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Ms. Freitag. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Next, I have Resolution 15-47, authorizing approval of professional services agreement for design engineering services Phase 2 with the Ciorba Group Incorporated for structure and appurtenant work on Laraway Road over the west fork of the east branch of Hickory Creek, County Board District 2, and I move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Tumanella. Previous roll call by Mr. Babbage, second by Ms. Trainier. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
I have Resolution 15-48, authorizing approval of MFT funds, $360,000 for design engineering services by the county under Illinois Highway Code for structure and appurtenant work on Laraway Road over the west fork of the east branch of Hickory Creek, County Board District 2. Move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Gould, second by Mr. Tumanello. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Rice, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
Those are all the items I have today. Our next meeting is March 3rd in this room at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Don. Next, we have the Judicial Committee, Mr. Benefield, Chairman.
Executive.
Good morning.
There are no items this month for the Judicial Committee. We will be having our next Judicial Committee meeting. It's scheduled for March 3rd, 9 a.m. here at the county office.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Public Health Safety Committee, Ms. Ogala, Chairperson.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Judy.
This morning, we have a public hearing for our this is hard to say, water well ordinance. I'd like to make a motion to open public hearing for this ordinance.
Moved by Ms. Ogala, seconded by Ms. Freitag. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Sure, Mayor? Yes. Brooks? Yes. Howard? Yes. Ogala?
Yes.
Rice? Yes. Harris? Yes. Trainier? Yes. Benefield?
Yes.
Fritz? Yes. Freitag? Gould?
Yes.
Balich? Yes. Frizalone? Yes. Winfrey? Yes. Parker? Yes. Staley Ferry? Babbage? Yes. Wilhelmie? Yes. Chumanello? Yes. Weigel? Yes. Collins? Yes. Berry? Yes. And Mustis? Yes. Thank you.
22 affirmative.
22 affirmative. We are in public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak in regards to this ordinance? Anyone? Anyone from the public wishing to speak in regards to discuss the changes to the Will County Chapter 53 Water Well Permit Ordinance? Ms. Ogala?
I'd like to make a motion to close public hearing.
Motion by Ms. Ogala to close public hearing, second by Mr. Benefield. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor? Yes. Brooks? Yes. Howard? Yes. Ogala?
Yes.
Rice? Harris? Yes. Trainier? Yes. Benefield?
Yes.
Fritz? Yes. Freitag? Yes. Gould?
Yes.
Balich? Yes. Frizalone? Yes. Winfrey? Yes. Parker? Yes. Babbage? Wilhelmie? Yes. Chumanello? Yes. Weigel? Yes. Collins? Yes. Berry? Yes. And Mustis? Yes. Thank you.
22 affirmative.
Public hearing has been closed. Continue, Ms. Ogala.
Thank you. First, we have 1549, amending the Will County Chapter 53 Water Well Permit and Water Supply Ordinance. Before we vote on this, I'd like to just say this is to catch our ordinances up to speed on the closed-loop wells, which are used for geothermal heating and cooling systems in the county. So I'd like to make a motion
Motion to
for
approve.
1549 to approve.
Moved by Ms. Ogala, second by Mr. Benefield. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Mayor, second by Ms. Rice. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
I'd like to place on file our Regional Office of Education quarterly report from October 1st, 2014 through December 31st, 2014.
Moved by Ms. Ogala, second by, somebody say second? Mr. Mustis. All, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Next, we have 1550, in support of reauthorization of funding for the Children's Health Insurance Program. And for a little background there, this is, we were going to pass a resolution. We hope to pass a resolution supporting this. To date, there are over 1.6 million Illinois children enrolled in the All Kids program. The Government Accountability Office estimates that up to 2 million CHIP-eligible children could lose access to this health coverage. CHIP is a state-tailored program, and this, by supporting this, we would give Illinois time to put in place a comprehensive plan to meet the needs of our children. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Moved by Ms. Ogala, second by Mr. Tumanello. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Mayor, second by Mr. Ferry. Whoop, Mr. Mayor. Well, when I asked, okay, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. You know, I just want to comment that this program is helping a tremendous amount of kids. And we have such a lack of knowledge of exactly what this Obamacare is going to be doing for us, and for people to assume that affordable health care is affordable is ridiculous. And case in point, I have a daughter that had to buy 3 months of medicine and had to pay a $4,000 deductible in order to buy medicine, and it cost her $4,000. And so the insurance plans and the way they're falling out are just, we don't even know yet where all this is going to be. So I really want to point out that I'm not in favor of the government getting in and doing a lot of spending of taxpayer dollars, but this really has been a really good program for a lot of folks, and I'm going to be a yes vote for this.
Motion, any other discussion? Any other discussion? Motion for previous roll call by Mr. Wilhelmie, second by Ms. Winfrey. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
In reading Sunny Hill, which is part of underneath Public Health and Safety's Committee, I was looking at their latest newsletter, and I noticed that they have a wish list out there. So I'm hoping that those of you listening today and here in the committee room would maybe join me in helping to provide some of their wish list. It's some easy things, like women's socks, occasion cards, which we all have about the house. If you have CD players and old movies, DVDs, large print books, sunglasses, walker and wheelchair. Sometimes you have things left over from a senior who may have passed. You could donate them. And, of course, any Walmart gift cards. I think it's really important for us to go ahead and support a lot of our residents at Sunny Hill. A lot of them are there. They don't really have any family, and they really can't afford to purchase these items on their own because they're on Medicaid. So there's a box. The ladies put a nice box for us in the county board office, and I hope that you will join me in that effort. And in saying that, that concludes my report for today, and our next Public Health and Safety Committee meeting is scheduled for March 5th at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Next up is Legislative and Policy Committee. Mr. Howard, are you handling this?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Mr. Howard, Vice Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Executive and fellow board members.
Good morning, Bob.
I have one resolution to present before the board this morning. 15-51, supporting revisions to the current electronics recycling law, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Howard, seconded by Mr. Babbage. Any discussion? Any discussion? Previous roll by Ms. Trenier, second by Mr. Brooks. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion is carried.
Okay, and the next Legislative and Policy Committee meeting is scheduled for March 10th, 2015 at 9 a.m. I look forward to seeing everybody there, and bundle up.
Thank you, Bob. Next on to Capital Improvements Committee. Ms. Freitag, Chairperson.
Good morning, Executive Walsh and
Good
board
morning,
members. I have one resolution, 1552, authorizing the county executive to acquire temporary and permanent easements from Commonwealth Edison for public utility improvements on Lairway Road. I so move.
Moved by Ms. Freitag, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Previous roll call by Ms. Winfrey, seconded by Mr. Babbage. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Thank you. There's no other resolutions. Our next capital improvements meeting is scheduled for March 3rd at 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Reagan. Next we move on to Executive Committee. Mr. Mustis, Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Executive.
Good morning, Jim.
County Board. First, I'm going to make a motion to go into public hearing for proposed temporary amendment to the overweight permit procedures, and I will move to go into public hearing.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, seconded by Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Sure. Mayor?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Ogalla? Rice? Harris? Trenier? Benefield? Fritz? Freitag? Gould? Balich? Frizzalone?
Yes.
Winfrey? Parker? Babbage? Wilhelmie? Tumanello? Weigel? Collins? Ferry? And Mustis.
Yes.
Thank you.
22 affirmative.
22 affirmative, the motion has carried. We have a number of speakers. So our first person that has signed up is Ramona Noby. Would you like to speak? Well, please come forward. And state your name and address for the clerk, okay?
Good morning. My name is Ramona Anabe. I'm with Anabe Logistics, Inc., a trucking company. My address is 2727 63rd Street, Downers Grove, Illinois. My questions and comments are based on the overweight procedures that are for Arsenal Road. I run a small trucking company, and we do a lot of overweight containers. But because of Walter Strong Drive closing, we are not able to do the overweight size. We're limited on Arsenal Road to only 88,000 pounds. And typically our trucks are carrying up to 92,000 pounds. The issue with limiting it to 92,000 even is that we're basing it on the axles and the containers, and when we get scaled, we have to make sure that we don't go over each axle, which is why it helps to go up to 94 or even 95,000 pounds. So with being at 88,000, we're still at risk if we're reducing the weight of our containers, that we might be over an axle. So it's kind of difficult to balance because grain is sometimes a little heavier in the back or sometimes heavier on a different axle. We currently have to get Will County seal permits for $20 per container. It gets a little difficult when you're trying to meet all your drivers and here's your permits, here's your seals per container, imagining that each driver is doing anywhere from 3 to 5 containers on Arsenal Road per day. So we're looking for some kind of a solution for the permit, if not to increase the weight, but also instead of having per container, maybe a monthly permit or even weekly. So that way the drivers can have whatever amount of containers without having to have a seal on the back of each container.
Thank you.
We're doing it weekly.
Mr.
Yeah, we're doing it weekly.
Mr. Gould, are you asking these questions or you bringing this up as information you'd like to see?
It's information, but also we'd like to see some changes that can help the trucking companies so that way we can have more weight if maybe something can be discussed further to increase the weights and also to change the current procedures.
Okay. I would suggest Mr. Bruce Gould is our county engineer, probably maybe getting a get together with him in a meeting to see what possibly could be worked out. Mr. Bustos?
I mean, we are going to allow up to 92,000.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually for our roads, the way our roads are constructed, that's a stretch for us. I did talk to Mr. Gould. I think he is going to do a weekly permit, so you'll have that opportunity to go to a weekly permit. Keep in mind, this is going to be temporary for us until we find a permanent solution.
Right.
But we will be addressing some of your concerns.
And would that be just for grain? Because we also have recycled.
No, it'll be for everything.
We're opening up for everything.
Okay.
So, as Mr. Musa says, this is 90 days, temporary, and I think get in contact with Mr. Gould, and we'll see if we can't work out some of your issues and go from there.
Mr. Executive?
We are going to allow divisible loads.
Yes.
So it won't just be grain.
And we'll also, just to confirm, this resolution that's going to be before the board is going to deal with daily, weekly, and monthly fees.
Yeah.
So you'll have a choice to make. So if anybody else is going to be speaking to that's already in the resolution that we're going to pass here today.
Okay, and that will
or
be
at least vote on today.
Okay, but
So
the resolution
some of
won't
your
be today.
issues are already going to be taken care of,
Great.
hopefully before you leave. Mr. Bruce, you want to make?
Yeah, just a quick comment.
Yeah.
The questions that she made are all being addressed in this ordinance.
Yeah.
It's not just containerized grain. It's all dry goods, up to 92,000, daily, monthly, and weekly permits. So, were those the questions you had?
That is it. The sooner you could put it in effect, the happier we'll be.
So if it passes, that'll be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We try to give quick service here.
Quick
I don't think we've ever done that.
Yeah.
Next on our list is Randy Thomas. Mr. Thomas.
Good morning. I'm Randy Thomas with the Illinois Trucking Association, located at 7000 South Adams, Willowbrook, Illinois. My question is regarding Arsenal Road. Originally, it's my understanding that road was built by the state and then deeded to the county. I'm wondering if, with all the talk of the temporary resolution, if possibly that might go back to the state at some point in time. What that would do, that would help our membership, the trucking companies, by reducing another permit that they would have to purchase. Right now, they can operate under the state of Illinois on their permit fee. So it's just a thought that possibly could be brought up later on down the road.
Well, Randy, it was always Will County's road to begin with. The state and Centerpoint's participated in the construction of both the separated grade crossing and the construction of the road. They didn't deed it back. We never lost ownership of it.
Understood.
And so, that was the road, and now we are in the process by what we're trying to do here today on a 90-day plan is to hopefully author or put this back before the state of Illinois and ask if they will work with us on a transferring of ownership, or if we need legislative approval or whatever it may be. We would like to see the state of Illinois become the owner of the frontage roads and the Manhattan Arsenal Road from 55 to baseline.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mustis?
I just want to make a quick comment. You know, we are talking with IDOT, and we are talking about jurisdictional transfer. So I would ask you to, you know, through your association and maybe your sister associations, to also contact IDOT and perhaps encourage them to take a hard look at this.
And we look forward to doing that, sir. Yes.
So we're looking for your help too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Mr. Mark Schneiderwin, next speaker.
Mark Schneiderwin, the Will County Farm Bureau, 100 Manhattan Road here in Joliet. We'd like to thank the county board and the committees that have worked on putting this resolution forward and for consideration here today. The agriculture industry, along with a lot of other businesses, have relied very heavily on the overweight permit, and it's been a legalized permit process that we have used for international trade. And so at the 92,000 pounds, it's something that our industry can work with, and we thank you for considering moving this forward. And the Illinois Farm Bureau, Mr. Mustis, is also working with the Department of Transportation for that transfer as well, because we would support that as well. We encourage you to support this resolution here today, and thank you again.
Thank you, Mark. Next is Pat Reese.
Hi, my name's Pat Reese, located in 7305 Illinois Highway 26, Princeton, Illinois. I'm here to support what the team has been speaking on already. I work with Consolidated Grain and Barge, and we are in the export side of the business. So we have been utilizing Will County and the state of Illinois roads for 10 years plus, and allowing us to ship product at the higher weight of 92,000 does allow us to be price competitive in the world market. Lowering it back down to 88 does mean additional cost and probably less competitive to many markets. So your consideration for the additional raise back to 92 is very beneficial to our trade, to our county, to our employees that we use locally and around the northern part of the state of Illinois is supportive to 92,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you for coming over. The next speaker is Lucas Blaustein. Morning.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Lucas Blaustein. I work with Consolidated Grain and Barge, Pat Reese. I'm here on the sales perspective. Pat is my manager. I just wanted to communicate to all of you what this restriction is having on our business and sales overseas. So to my export customer, it is a $10 to $20 increase in terms of this road weight restriction and in terms of the permit cost. We work with Anabe Logistics, who was here, you listened to a moment ago. They pass on that cost to us. Unfortunately, we cannot pass on that cost to the end customer. So we are eating that cost, and this is in a business where margins are very slim to begin with. So it makes any transportation of agricultural goods through Will County less competitive overseas, and incents me to use other counties and other facilities and other roads to make sales overseas. So I would highly encourage passing this resolution, supporting this resolution, and also supporting the movement of jurisdiction to the state level. So thank you today. I appreciate you inviting us to speak.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anyone else from the public that wishes to speak on this resolution? Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Any last member wishing to speak?
Mr. Executive,
Mr.
I'll make a
Musis.
motion to come out of a public hearing.
Moved by Mr. Musis, second by Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Mayor?
Yes.
Brooks? Howard? Ogalla? Rice? Harris? Trinier? Benefield? Fritz? Freitag? Gould? Balich? Frizalone? Winfrey? Parker? Babbage? Wilhelmie? Tumanello? Weigel? Collins? Ferry? And Mustis.
Yes.
Thank you.
22 affirmative.
22 affirmative. We are out of public hearing. Please continue, Mr. Musis.
Okay. Next, I have Resolution 1553, a temporary amendment to the ordinance regarding the Will County Division of Transportation oversized weight, and overweight permit procedures, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Musis, second by Mr. Mayor. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Previous roll call by Mr. Wilhelmie, second by Mr. Babbage. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Next, I have Resolution 1554, declaring sheriff's seized vehicles surplus and authorizing disposal. I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Trenier. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Winfrey, second by Ms. Parker. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, that motion is carried.
Next, I have 1555, declaring vehicles in surplus and authorizing disposal.
Second.
So moved.
Mayor?
Mr. Mustis?
Yes.
Yes, I moved, yes.
Oh, moved. Second by Mr. Mayor. And previous roll by Mr. Wilhelmie, second by Mr. Babbage. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, I have 1556, authorizing two-year contract extension for telecommunications, local and long-distance service. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Frizzlone. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Parker, second by Ms. Collins. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
Next, I have 1557, authorizing the county executive to execute the amended intergovernmental agreement for a participation agreement with Monee Township for continuation in the Will Ride Mobility Management Project. I'll move for approval.
Moved by Mr. second by Ms. Winfrey. Any questions? Previous roll by Ms. Ogalla, seconded by Mr. Babbage. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
1558, authorizing the county executive to execute an amended IGA for sponsorship participation agreement with Peatone Township for the Will County Mobility Management Project, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Ms. Ogalla. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Howard, second by Mr. Gould. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion is carried.
This next motion, 1559, is setting the Board of Review salaries. Just so everyone knows, there is no increase to those salaries. So having said that, I'll move to approve 1559 setting of the Board of Review salaries.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Harris, second by Mr. Howard. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Next, we have 1560, replacement hires for the Land Use Department, and I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, second by Mr. Ferry. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Gould, seconded by Ms. Trainier. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, motion has carried.
1561, replacement hires for Sunny Hill. I will move for approval.
Moved by Mr. Mustis, seconded by Mr. Wilhelmy. Any questions? Previous roll by Mr. Brooks, seconded by Ms. Rice. All in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary, motion has carried.
Our next meeting will be March 5th at 10 a.m. That concludes my report. There are no appointments by the county executive this month, and that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Executive.
you, Mr. Mustis. Item number 12, public comment. Public comment, is there anyone here and wishes to speak on behalf of items for the county board? Anyone here, any from the public who wishes to speak? Seeing none. Announcements by the Legislative Republican Caucus. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. You know, when I hear that Jackie and Steve are on the same page, kind of brings a tear to my eye.
Yeah, we're going to set a light at your house.
So it's fun to see that we can reach across the aisles. In fact, we've had several close votes today that did not come down party line, but came down issues, and people really getting an idea of what those issues are. Hopefully, the best decision was made as we came down on those lines. But I want to wish everybody a wonderful February. Hopefully, this will be done soon, and we will get a little warmer. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the Democratic Caucus Chair, Mr. Brooks.
Good morning, Mr. Executive, ladies and gentlemen. Two reasons why I'm not wearing a tie today is, number one, I knew I wouldn't look as good as James Glasgow, so I just gave up on that one. But the second reason, which is probably just as important, the second reason is because on Tuesday night, Mr. Executive, you and I, Speaker Mustis, and many of our elected county officials attended the Mardi Gras for Senior Service of Will County. You remember that, Jim? Oh, okay. And, yeah, good gumbo. But while we were there, if you remember, they brought their financial woes to our awareness. And after 48 years in Will County, serving our seniors all over Will County, they told us because of the financial crunch in the state of Illinois, they're about to close their doors after 48 years. And that was very sad to me. And when I learned that, I told Pat Hensley, our director, that I would help her raise awareness of how important this program is, not only in Will County, but to me, because I'm a senior now. And they have done a wonderful work in Will County. And ladies and gentlemen, we cannot allow Senior Services of Will County to close its doors. So that's why I'm wearing the shirt. To all the events I'm going to this week, to raise that awareness. Also, I want to thank Mr. Brown, Norman Brown. I know he's gone for our Black History Month. As you know, we're going our final week of Black History, and it's always good to hear about the heritage of all Americans, and he did a very good job on this morning. I want to thank him for that. And then lastly, since we met on last month, our Speaker of the Board, Jim Mustis' mom, had passed away. I'm sure many of you all signed the card, but I just want to publicly express my condolences to you, Mr. Mustis, and a homegoing of your mom in Chicago on last month. That's all I have. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you. Our Speaker, Mr. Mustis.
Well, first I'd like to thank everyone for all the work you've done in the last month. And I think today was an interesting day in the fact that we took votes that are basically along lines of what we think the merits of the situation is. So I like to tell people we're not a very partisan board, nor do we act in a partisan way when it comes to doing the work for the people. So I think we demonstrated that today. want to, I listened to that poem today, and I think of others that I would add to that list. One of the people I would add in that poem is Dick Gregory. He was one of my, he was really somebody who was, so adding Dick Gregory to that poem, will you, for me? Send in that suggestion.
Okay.
I'm gonna piggyback a little bit on Mr. Brooks's comments about senior services. I've worked with senior services for many years. And in Frankfort Township, we do donate or support, I shouldn't say donation, we do support senior services financially. Of course, they bring services to our township as they bring services to most townships and to this county. Amongst the things services they provide is they do the Meal on Wheels, and they do the senior nutrition. This so happens that Frankfort Township is a senior nutrition center, so they operate out of our township, and it is a tough kind of deal, you know. Some senior services, anytime I've asked them as a township supervisor for their assistance, they've helped, including. Can you help me? I have a senior that's got raccoons in their house, and we'll help with some additional assistance if you can help me with this. And they have done those types of things for us. I believe they have come to our county executive, and I don't know if Mr. Walsh would want to make comment that if we would consider also giving them some financial assistance. And certainly I think that it's something I think we should strongly consider, especially if it's a match situation. You know, maybe that'll encourage townships and others to belly up a little bit more. For those of you who may not be aware of it, we also used to have the Eastern Will County Senior Services, and that did go defunct, and so that's gone. And I assume that the Will County Senior Services is picking up some of that slack. Maybe perhaps some of the eastern folks can comment on that. So they've taken even more burden on, and with the state cuts, I want to at least feel, we look at this sheet, and Mr. Frizzlone mentioned some of the cutting that the state might do as part of our local income tax match. I've always thought this was going to go over time, that the state would just not share with us any longer. But we can expect continuing cuts coming out of the state. We know that they're in dire financial situation. So we're going to have to try to pick up as much locally as we can. So I would encourage people to take a look at senior services. And, I suppose I've had small issues with them over the years, but I can tell you I have small issues probably with a lot of people over the years. But we move on, and of course, and do the best we can for the people. So, so Larry, I don't know if you're going to ask to bring that forward next month, but certainly I think we'll take a look at it. I appreciate, I have to say this real briefly, I appreciate everything about my mom. And she was a sweetheart of a woman. I like to say, my dad was a SOB, and my mother was the sweetest woman you ever would meet, and she would say, "Oh, honey, your father loves you. He's just his way." So she was a good balance in my life. So stay warm, and I'll see you all next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And yes, the issue of Senior Services Center is definitely on our agenda, and we're going to be bringing something forward, and hoping that leadership can come together with a plan that will be helpful for them, because they do an unbelievable job in like the Meals on Wheels programs. It's not just the fact that they're delivering a meal, that there's somebody that is coming to somebody's house that's in need. And that may be the only person they see. That's maybe the only person they open their door to during that day. And it's a way that that person can check on to make sure that somebody that's in that house is well and doing okay and hasn't fallen or something like that. So at times like this, we definitely need to come to the forefront and work in collaboration with them. So there will be much discussion on the needs of Will County Senior Service Center over the next coming weeks. So with that, before we adjourn, I would like to take the time to introduce someone here this morning, someone that you all know. She's been here for 18 years. She's been my secretary for the last 10 and a half years, but Sharon Lorenz has decided that she has a grandchild and was wanting to spend more time with her, still with her mom and dad and her grandchild and her family. And as hard as it is, she's going to retire from my office and Will County government. So I would just want to say a thank you to Sharon. Thank you. Stand up, Sharon. Thank you for all that you've done and helped everybody that comes in our door. So with that, this board will stand at recess until March 19th, 2015 at 9:30 a.m.